Welcome to another session of GM Tips. GM Rick here. I'm kind of doing the same week, as you can tell from the angle of the camera and everything. And the shirt. So part 2, and again, in the background is the girl who was out of time or something like that. I forget the exact date. Forgive me for those of you in the anime side that know it. I like the show. Don't remember the name all the time. So like I do Fairy Tail and some of the other ones. So this week's topic. Is going to be a GM's tip on devils and demons. I could pick daemons too, but I'm just going to stick with devils and demons this week because I think they're going to be enough. So again, this is going to be more RPG fantasy specific versus RPG modern, though you could use this in the D20 past type of settings, or you could use them in the Deadlands Reloaded setting. Or you could use it possibly in modern settings or in hero settings. Not as much. One of these days I'll do some ones on you guys on the hero side for Mutants and Masterminds, or for what's our one that's oh my gosh, and I know them better than anything else. It's the Cyberpunk one with the D&D setting. Shadow Run. God, sorry, Shadowrun. Or I'll do some ones like a Vampire the Requiem, or maybe White Wolves, the wolf ones, the werewolves. I'll pick some other ones that'll be good. Or I got to get the Numenera basic set. So Monty Cook, hold me to that. If you watch this video, or Shanna, you remind me that Rick M. the GM said I need to get the basic set for Numenera, because I do, and I need to run it sometime. All right, so Devils and Demons. And I'm going to pick 2 of the ones that are done in Paizo and Pathfinder, because again, that's my system that I love so much. But this is usable across to Dungeons & Dragons, Dungeon World, pretty much pick any of the ones. 13th Age. You can use this across the board on all the different ones. So, 2 books. And again, I love these 2. It's the Princes of Darkness and the Lords of Chaos. Why is it important to differentiate between the 2? I think DMs and GMs use demons and devils interchangeably, and they are vastly, vastly different in philosophies. And I think, again, you can't compare them to modern religion here in Western religion or Eastern religion, because they kind of lump them all together. But they are way different. And I love the authors like Wes Snyder and James Jacobs who have gone into them. And the ones at the different authors at Wizards, and the different authors under some of the other ones like Wright Publishing, and under Purple Duck, and God, there's so many different ones. All you different folks who have dug into these differences, because it is important to remember they are way different in how they're run, and the societies that live under them, and how they view life as a philosophy. Okay, so let's start with devils. Devils are a tyrannical lot, and that word alone should set the stage for this. Tyranny in games, if you're using an alignment, is a lawful and a neutral, lawful and an evil. Neutral, yeah, that's just pure law. Lawful and evil type of mindset. So they view the law aspect as important as the evil. Now, even if you don't have alignments, you can think of them that way. These are your tyrannical dictators. They want followers who follow their precepts, laws, covenants, contracts. They are all about that. And in fact, the key one that's the one that's used the most, Asmodeus, or Satan, or Lucifer. You can put them all in the same lot. They're different, but they're used synonymously. He is often in many games seen as a god of law, and that is ascended to almost a god position of law and evil. And it's about the contractualization. Faustian is the best way you could put it. They are a Faustian type of creature. They are about signing a contract that then indebts you to them and makes you a subordinate to their laws and dictates. They're not necessarily good laws, but they are laws. They have certain principles and laws in order that they have to follow, otherwise they would fall apart. So the ones in here that are mentioned the most, and I love it because it goes down a bunch of them. So, the different ones that they have is Asmodeus is the key. He is in most campaigns. But then you get a lot of different variants. So some of these you may have, some of them you may not. Blazebul, Barbados, Belial, Despater, Irian, Mammon, Mephistopheles, and Moloch are all considered heads. And they have different things in different systems. So I'm not going to go through what they represent. But understand there's a dichotomy of different types of hierarchy in the realms of the Devil Lords. And in that hierarchy, there are certain things that have to be addressed, certain traits that they want someone to have laws and writs for. So arrogance, flies, lies, corruption, gateways, adultery, deception, desire, cities, prisons, rulership, forbidden knowledge, heresy, snakes, avarice, watchfulness, wealth, contracts, secrets, fire, obedience, and war. Those are all kind of the overview of what's important to the hierarchy of hell itself. There's a set number of levels of hell. Sometimes people call them the 9, some people call them the 8 or 6 or 10. It depends on the system, it depends on who's writing about it. But each one's different in it. But there's a lord over each layer that has to report to Asmodeus. Okay? There are other infernals that are there, especially and one of the things I love about Paizo is the expanse. So you may want to look at this. If you want to expand your hierarchy and the ones, you have dupes that go under the devils. So it is a true hierarchy. So you've got Eloser, Bifrons, Crocel, Deimos, Eligios, Furcus, Gap, Aborium, Eorzriel, Giveridane, Kalma, Lorcan, Malthus, Nurgle, Osi, Pyrrhus, and on down. And then under those, they've got hierarchy levels, so Malbranche devils and different types. So there is a order to the different realms of hell. And that's how they work in the planes of earth and on the worlds they're on. They have an orderly way that they want to take over society. A perfect example out of Pathfinder's settings is and I give this to Paizo, and this is a Paizo trademark, so I am talking about a Paizo thing and not something I've done. They have the Chelish Empire. The Chelish Empire used to be a lawful neutral nation. However, over time and corruption and other things went on, there was an infernal group that rose up that worshipped the devils. And Abrogail took over the country. And now it is the state religion to worship and become a nation of martial order. And it is a tyrannical order. And people suck up and try to gain position, and there's so many positions available. It's a hierarchy. And there's an order to things. Now, I'm not saying you can't assassinate someone and move into their spot, but there is an order to things. They have the Hell Knight Paralictors. Now, the Hell Knights are not necessarily devoted to hell. They can be lawful good, lawful neutral, lawful evil. But they keep the laws of the land. Whether they love them or not, they stay to those laws. Because law is more important than good, evil, or neutral. So, keep that in mind. So, those are things you need to know about devils. And it's so important. What roles do they play? They play the person that whispers in the ear. They are the ones that try to further, in an orderly fashion, the Book of the Damned and the different layers of hell and the different philosophies from hell. They're an all-encompassing society that believe these characteristics are important in the hierarchy of life. Okay? So those are the devils. And they will always have an order. They will always have different levels of leadership. And they will always be fluidly in a regimented order. You notice I keep going back to that. All right. Now let's go to the opposites of them. Also evil, but creative. Don't care about the laws. Don't care about the different things. Change and disruption is beauty to them. and those are the demons. The demons and the demon lords do not care about hierarchy. In fact, they're vying for power. And in this world, the queen over all of these is an interesting one. Because again, it's fluid most days. But the portrait on that book that I just got done showing you is the queen. Well, actually, the demon queen of the abyss is not her. That was Nocticula. I'm sorry. Lamashtu on this world, the mother of beasts, has taken over. In other ones, it is Demogorgon. So D&D has Demogorgon, which is the two-headed beast lord of chaos. Well, you got the queen, mother of chaos, in Lamashtu, in Pathfinder. Other systems may have other ones. That's the funny thing about the chaotics. They are constantly changing. So just because Lamashtu's on board and on top right now doesn't mean she'll stay there. It just means she's there for now. And she's stayed there probably a long while. But demons are about change. They're constantly vying for each other. Now, things you'll notice about the demon lords that you will see over the other. There are so many more. Why? Because there's 666 layers of the abyss that are ever changing. So these layers in the abyss, unlike this, which stays static, dynamic. So, chaos, dynamics, different ones raising up. Every time that one of those Balor demons gets up there, they're vying to take out one of the ones that's on top. So it is a constant upheaval society. And, you know, they oppose the angels and orders of heaven and drive them nuttier than a fruitcake. So often, you've got different ones. You've got the Barghest, which are the goblin-esque ones. The nascent demon lords. You've got the demon lords and the gods that all reside in the abyss. And the abyss is always flexing. It's a chaotic evil realm for the most part. Chaos, people don't understand that chaos is not murder hobo, okay? And I use that term as well. Everybody thinks chaos is I can do whatever the heck I want. Yes, but chaotics are freedoms. They're creatives. So, he will creatively find ways to remove the flesh from your body or deal with you in his realm or her realm. Because again, they can be either one. They're not set to one way of doing things. They'll find whatever way works best. Okay? Now again, they're not neutral evil. They're not about whatever furthers evil. They're about whatever disrupts. They're about disruption, change, creativity, and rethinking things. So they are always thinking of different ways. Their mind is a turbulent place. This is where the creatives go that have an evil slant to them. Because they're about creativity. They're about that. And then they're about the art of change. I love that the one thing they said here. The vast rifts of the abyss are typically all that visitors the outer planes see of this realm. The fact, combined with the common definition of the plane's names, creates a false perception that the plane consists solely of these vast canyons and rents in the outer sphere. In fact, these rifts are merely the entrances to the true abyss, where they plunge deep into an underlying solidity of outer sphere and into the countless realms embedded deep below, connected by impossibly long tunnels and impossibly deep pits. These regions are known as the abyssal layers. You see, outside you get this one picture of order. It's not. Impossible. Challenging. Doesn't make sense. Does not compute, Will Robinson. So, for most players, you can go here. It's going to affect you. But it's not going to lead you to insanity and other things. This does. Because your mind has a hard time wrapping around how creative the creatures in these realms have been in their madness. And so it is a maelstrom of the mind. is the best way to put it. Now, it's not the chaotic neutral maelstrom. It is a maelstrom of evil and just pervasive yuck. Now, they have a lot more things to throw out there. So they've got forbidden lore, sand, scorpions, thirst, illusions, tyrants, riddles, labyrinths, fungus and parasites and disease and decay, deformity, chasms, infestation, swamps, invention and transformation, oozes, poisons, graves, undead, cold, giants, revenge, cruelty, deception, darkness, lust. It is a whole nother nastiness that, yes, some of these touch, but there's so many more things here that these things pervade and try to get people with. Chaotics are unpredictable. You can't sit there. A lawful and a neutral are going to sit there and they just can't get their mind around the way a chaotic thinks, because they are so different and creative in how they look at life. That's the way these demons are, and how they entrap and they get people to fall to this. They are not about order and civilization. There's a horde that comes forth from the very abyss itself and tries to take over the world. So this is the realm that tries to invade the heavens and Elysium and all these other places and develop them and envelop them into war. They are the ones that try to come onto the material plane and convert it into a chaotic, nasty thing, like they did in the Whirlwind with the Inner Sea. They do it in the same thing in Faerun and Greyhawk. They are the miasma of the mind. So when you're doing them and running them, you have to think towards what they would do, which is very creative and random every time. They aren't well thought out. They may do something on a whim. They may be convinced to do a good thing on a whim, just because they're that way. And so where these have an order and expectation, these don't. And so that's the way, when you're running these two different realms, you have to think of them this way. One is just constantly creating and recreating itself in the image of whatever Lord has taken over that week. That's this realm. This stays static. There are some minor changes now and then, but pretty much you know what you're getting here. That's the differences. And so when you're playing these things, keep that in mind. And as you're running these creatures, keep that in mind. Where these will have a smooth tongue and may talk you into signing your very existence away and slowly coming over to that which is the tyrannical. This chips away at the mind and the soul and the being. And they're constantly pecking away in different ways and in different places. They're not the same. They don't honor contracts. Oh, they'll use them, but they don't honor them. Whereas these will honor them. They may twist it to the evil, but they will honor it to the letter of the law. And not the better judgment, the letter. So you have to look at the two very differently when you're running them. And so I think it's important to understand the difference. I think as young GMs and DMs, we don't always think about that. And so it's really important to make sure when you're running these, you don't run the devils like demons and the demons like devils. They have nothing in common when it comes to that. Only the advancement of evil is their commonality. How they do it is very starkly different. And you know, where this is an oppressive regime, this is a devaluation and destruction and constant recreation of whatever it takes over. Very different. Very, very different in the philosophies. And so I love them both. I mean, I think they're just tremendously fun things to run as a GM, but you got to run them towards what they're really about. So if you don't have this material, get your material. They have the Lords of the Apocalypse in D&D. They may have material for you in your different systems. I've got mine for Paizo, and I've even got the one on Daemons, because Neutral Evil is a whole different realm. But when you're understanding the Outer Planes and running them, get the material. Sit there and mull on it for a while. And then take it and twist it. The Book of Vile Darkness that they had for Pathfinder, a little dark, or D&D 3.5, a little dark, but they really hit a lot of things well in that. Kind of like what these do. And they sat there and gave you a real look into the mind of things. And it's kind of scary. I mean, it lets you know how starkly different you are from those type of individuals. But when you're running them as a GM, you have to kind of give them that framework so that the players can see and have that unity against them. Or if they're playing with them, to know how to play in such a realm and be the anti-heroes of that realm. Thanks, folks. I hope you have a great time on these. Again, it's about 21 minutes, so a little bit over, but not 22, but 21. I hope you like it. If you want to send something to me, it's Rick with capital R, M, capital M, so Rick without a K, M, T, capital T, little H, little E, capital GM. And that's at Twitter. Or it's Rick, R-I-C, M-O-H 45 at gmail.com. Thanks, guys.